stories about water and urban places. This is Ideanthro.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Ideanthro. 2 episodes back, we had a That's Like Worcester episode where we talked about Jim Collins, he's an author, Jim Collins' concept of firing bullets and then cannonballs. Now, we talked about this in a business context, but we talked about it in the context of water-sensitive urban design. And the idea is that essentially, when businesses are looking around for new business ideas, successful ones try a whole bunch of different things with just a small little investment to test the waters and see what works. And then when they find something that works, they then go all in. They fire lots of little bullets, and when they know what's working better than others, they fire a giant, whopping, great big cannonball in the direction of the one that was working. We related this back to water-sensitive urban design. In this episode, I just want to provide a really tangible little example of that playing out in a very specific context. So not in the broad context that I talked about in that previous episode, but in a very, very, very specific context. And that context is planting of bioretention systems. I know, not another darn bioretention system video, Jack. I know, I just can't stop it. As much as I talk about needing water-sensitive urban design Mark II, I sometimes feel I'm not helping matters by continually talking about bioretention systems. Anyhow, bioretention systems. Planting them. Arguably, the way to apply this principle to planting out bioretention systems, planting out anything else for that matter, bush re-veg would be another example of this. The way to apply this in planting out a bioretention system is to plant lots and lots and lots of different species, see what takes in that particular system, and then follow up with more planting of that particular species. 5 bullets with lots of species, and there's a couple of cannonballs following the ones that are really successful. And in fact, having recently done a whole bunch of inspections of bioretention systems in the Gold Coast, I can see this at play in the way they are managing their systems. I can see systems, again, because I've been in this industry for about 9 years, and I've been looking at a whole bunch of bioretention systems that I had nothing to do with over that time. Many of them on the Gold Coast, as it happens. So I've seen a lot of these systems that I'm now revisiting formally in this sense, assessing them for council. I've seen many of them over the years. And so I can look at many of these systems and be like, I've got photographs of this from like 8 years ago, where this particular system was originally planted with 4 different species. And 3 of them failed. And 1 of them went well, and council's now followed up and planted with more of that particular species to fill in. Now, I would argue where we get planting a little bit wrong at the moment in this sense is the fact that I have a funny feeling that Jim Collins would suggest that firing only 3 or 4 bullets, like we do every time we plant a bioretention system, probably isn't enough. I suspect that the firing bullets idea here should have a broader spread than that we should actually be planting 6, 8, 10 different species. Who knows? It's going to depend on the context, right? But the point is to fire a whole bunch of different options, fully expecting some of them not to work, and then to come back in and to fill in again with more stuff that does know. Now, I know that's really problematic in the context of the DA process and getting things signed off and approvals, because no developer really wants to plant stuff deliberately thinking it's going to fail and they're going to have to spend more money. But the point is, this is a way. It's really the bit of looking at what works and then following up with more of that that's relevant here to bioretention planting. We see all the time the same 4 species getting planted. And I would suggest to you that if you go out and look at bioretention systems that have lasted over time, and you look at the plants that last over the years, you're going to find that a number of the staples that always get planted and do well off the bat don't last over the time. And so the concept that we keep going and replanting more of these species, this isn't what Gold Coast does. Gold Coast is very, very good at then going and replanting its species that look like they will sensibly make sense in that system based on what they know of that plant's general success and also what they can see in that system in particular. Very good at doing that. But as an industry as a whole, we have a tendency of being like, some of the plants failed, let's just replant the same mix again. That's bonkers. That's utterly bonkers and completely flies in the face of fire bullets and then cannonballs, because we're not learning from all the bullets that were fired. To give you an example of this, looking at systems around the Gold Coast, I would suggest to you that the only species that I've seen doing ubiquitously well in essentially any bioretention system are Lomandras, no one's shocked by that, Imperator cylindrica, Melaleuca trees, acacia trees. That's it. I've also seen casuarinas. Casuarinas are put in less commonly. Where I do see them put in, I see them do very, very well. But that is the only stuff that I see just do consistently well in bioretention systems. And yet all the time we're going and planting new systems or replanting old systems. Things like Vicinium nodosa work sometimes. Juncus usitatus, I don't see that work very often, to be honest. Carrick suppressor does work, but only if the system's excessively wet and not actually in the wetness regime you expect from a bioretention system. We have to, if we want to get successful systems and we're using the fire bullets and then cannonballs idea as our guide, we should be, initially when we plant a bioretention system, because we are not sure of what's going to work in any given system, putting in quite a few different species, some of which I'd suggest should be either Lomandras, Imperator, Melaleucas, or Acacias, or probably Casuarinas, surrounded by a mix of other species that may or may not do well in that particular system, putting them in, seeing what does well, and then following up with more of that. That is how you would apply this particular idea to the very tangible concept of planting out a bioretention system. Let's fire multiple species, and then fire Lomandras. I'm kidding. But you know what I'm saying. If you've ever had anything to do with landscaping, Lomandras are the cannonball in this concept. Okay, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Before you go, our best episodes come from your questions. This knowledge base, these discussions that are Ideanthro improve with your contribution. So if there's a topic, an idea, a concept that you would like us to explore, come and ask us. You know where to find us. www.ideanthro.com/contact. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and that place you get your good podcasts from. You know where to find us. We look forward to hearing from you. We'll see you soon.